Jambo Rafiki, I'm Elizabeth from Kasiwa82, and I hope you are doing really well. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. It's Friday, so it's time for another Friday Flip. This is a series in which I go through and talk about journals that I'm currently using, as well as going through and reviewing journals that I've filled up over the years, and kind of talking about some tips and tricks about how to go ahead and keep a journal. As a person who's kept one since I was really young, it's been kind of fun. And for me, especially in this Friday Flip, is going through and taking a look at the evolution of how I've moved from journals that were primarily written with journals that have got more of an illustrated journaling style to it. So in the next couple of weeks, I've gone through my stash and pulled out the next series of journals that I'm going to be flipping. And what I wanted to do was flip these three next. So you'll be seeing them in the upcoming weeks. So what I did with all of these journals, and they're very similar, I've talked about this before on my channel, I like doing things as inexpensively as possible. So each one of these three journals, I took a stack of really cheap watercolor paper, 9 by 12 sheets of paper that I cut in half. I took them to my local Staples and I had them ring bind them. And I think the ring binding itself cost, I think it was about $2 maybe for each one of these stacks. I got a nice thick book. And for the covers, I basically used the cardboard backing that comes with a pad of paper. Do you know what I mean? So when you buy a stack of paper, they basically have a cardboard piece at the very back that all the pages attach to. And what I did was just take that piece of cardboard, cut it in half, and use them as my journal covers. So these are the three that you'll be seeing coming up, and I wanted to just flip the first one of that series today. So again, very simple. This is kind of fun because I decided to just go ahead and use some of the stamps I had to make a stamping cover. I left the back blank and used some penguin stickers that I have in my stash that, you know, I don't really use stickers a lot, but when I actually find them, ones that I like, it's always fun to play with them. And astoundingly, this journal is from 2007, and these stickers are still sticking. You know, that never happens usually with sticker sheets, right? So anyway, let's go through it and flip through this one. So as I said, the most inexpensive watercolor papers that I found from Michael's, when I pick them up when they go on sale. So it doesn't cost a lot. The binding itself was really inexpensive. So what that does is it actually makes it so that when you go to play in your journals, they're not expensive. So you don't have this preciousness that comes with it. And there's something about not having things that are precious or that feels precious. That means that, you know, oh my gosh, you need to have these amazingly deep or brilliant thoughts. I open up a page, I go to the next one, I work sequentially in my journals. I do not go back and forth when I usually go through my art journals. And these ones were kind of fun because this is April of 2007, and I'm kind of doing the swatch of some of the supplies I had at the time. Now you'll notice they're really inexpensive, right? So I got some Tombow markers, some Pentel points, bold pens. There's a whole bunch of Disney. My nephews and nieces were really young at that time. And so again, I like to play with color and I want it to be cheap and I don't want to be concerned about them destroying an art supply. This way everybody gets to play and there's no, oh my God, you destroyed that piece of art material that costs all this money. So here are some Crayola markers. There's some Sharpie flip markers. So I do have some Caran d'Ache Neo colors. My nephews and nieces did not play with these. These cost a lot more money. Woodless color pencils. So here is basically some of the other color pencils, an inexpensive one, watercolor pencils that I let my nieces and nephews play with. Cheap just colored pencils, and then my portfolio series, water-soluble oil pastels. So one of the things that's kind of fun is, and I don't do this as much anymore, primarily because I don't play with as much color as I used to when I first started. But I should actually, this is reminding me to do a swatch of the supplies I do have in my stash. Actually, none of these have changed. I tend to have the exact same supplies that I've had for, a decade or so. So what I do with these journals, I sketch, I take notes. They're very, very similar. We were at Plum Island. I picked up some shells. I sketched them. We go on the boat. I kind of doing a layout of what the boat looks like. When I have nieces and nephews, this is back when they were still really young, I have them sketch in my journals. And I highly recommend this. I've said this before, having kids play in your journals. It captures a particular moment in time and how they journal. There is no rhyme or reason to my pages. I open up to the next page. I think about what story do I want to capture? What piece of artwork do I want to do? There was a daylily blooming in our front yard, right? So May 1st, I'm thinking about spring, swatches of colors. And then I turn the page and move on. Watching, a Red Sox game. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but we happened to be at a place where the game was on, so talking about that. My nephew is filling out sketches or boxes in my journals, right? So my journals tend to be very similar, and one of the things that people have asked before is how you come up with your own style. And you'll see this when I first started doing art journaling, I would try to imitate someone else's style. So this is, I think, 2007, one of the first times I seem to remember having a boat that actually looked more boat-like. So that was kind of one of those, I just remember, the sense of accomplishment I felt with that one. Using those little stickers that come on fruit or vegetables and then making art around them. Using postage stamps that come in the mail. I just like playing. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think, okay, here's a perfect example. Here's a quote. The process of creation is far more important than the final product. There are no mistakes in art. Avoid making models for children to copy. And I think that's true across the board. I think there's something to be said for, if you find work that inspires you, by all means, go ahead and imitate, right? So we learn by imitation. If you think about how we first start writing, we're basically tracing over the letters in our kindergarten classes. And then writing becomes our own over time as we get older and we mature. So I think that's one of the fun things about this is thinking about playing with other people's styles. So this is, I can tell, comes from somebody else's style that I was kind of imitating a little bit. Those tend to be my least favorite pages when I go back and look in my journals. I tend to like journals that reflect me. They look like me as opposed to somebody else in my pages. Okay, does that make sense? Let me know. If you understand what I'm saying there, leave me a comment in the comment down below and let me know if that's something that you see as well. Because when you look at your journals, if they don't look like you might as well go buy that other artist's sketchbooks, which you can. They're fantastic. But this is something that reflects me and what I was thinking about at that time. And that's something that I really appreciate as I go back and look through my journals. So a lunar eclipse, we actually went out this particular early morning and I'm actually sketching. There's no light. So I'm literally just kind of drawing with the light of the moon, kind of what the eclipse looks like. Yes, they are pictures online that I could have captured, that I actually could have taken a snapshot of. But what I wanted to capture was the experience of actually watching that eclipse happen live with no electronics. There was no camera. It was just, what am I experiencing in that moment in time? And this is something many, many people have said, and I'll reiterate. There's something about capturing an image of something that is really going on at that moment in time, whether it's a drawing, whether it's a sketch, whether it's notes, however you decide to do that, that will take you right back. So in my mind, I have this moment of, I can flash back to that moment of sitting with a hot cup of cocoa watching that lunar eclipse. Okay. And that's something that's precious. You can't get that in many other ways. Creating collages of things that come in the mail. This is just all junk mail that shows up. My nieces, when they were the twins of my nieces when they were really little, I can tell this was kind of cute. Again, I sometimes open pages and I have no idea. I know that, for example, this is back in the day when I was adding paint to the pages ahead of time. So these are acrylic paint on the background. Then I come to the page and I'm like, I'm not really sure what I want to do here. I did some sketching and I don't love it. Doesn't matter. Turn the page, move on. Again, somebody else's style. I was just playing with how do I use collage in a way that creates more of a cohesive 2-page spread. I like it. I mean, it's all right. Nothing about this I would necessarily do today, but it's just kind of fun to see, going through expressions there. One of these things where, you splash paint on the page, you then go ahead and turn the page over and then smush it down so it creates kind of a double image. This kind of looks like a dragon to me, and I could have basically done the pen line work to show that it's a dragon. I don't care. I like how it looks. I turn the page, move on. I cannot recommend highly enough that one of the things I do not do is tear pages out of my journals. I leave them in there. Many people talk about working over a quote unquote bad page until you like how it looks. I almost never do that. I don't like the page, don't care. Turn it over, move on. Because what it captures is a particular moment in time. And I think one of the things is we learn from our mistakes. If we go ahead and cover it up, for me personally, I forget what I didn't like about that or what didn't work for me at that time. Again, a collage of various pieces that I have on my table. And these are called the classic glue pages. And I haven't done this in a while. And I always like how that looks. Again, my nephew, like playing, I'm almost positive these are Crayola crayons that we're playing with, and this is kind of fun. Same thing here, just doodling and making pages with another glue page on that side. Playing with tripods. I cannot highly recommend enough going back and looking at some of the older sketches you have, because there is something really amusing about we all used to draw as kids, and then all of a sudden we stop drawing because we cannot do something realistically. We can't capture it realistically. And then, there's this kid in our class who can draw whatever in this stylistic 3D rendering, and we just lose all hope and get disheartened and stop sketching. And I'm a big believer in go back. Play like you were a kid. Doesn't matter who's going to look at it, right? I could have chosen not to share this and nobody would have ever seen these images, which are crazy. Doesn't matter. It's a place and time. It was me learning something. My sketches are better than that today, because the thing is, as most things, the more you practice, you will improve. I kind of like this idea. So these butterflies came from a calendar. The calendar year was done. And what I wanted to do was kind of just play with the idea of how do I create more of an abstract as opposed to a completed page, right? So I got some hands from some image. These butterflies, I fussy cut out of that calendar. There you go. Yes, like I said, sometimes just playing with color is soothing. It doesn't have to have a message. It doesn't have to have a point. Again, when I was first starting out, following along with various other artists in terms of how they created pages, I like it. It doesn't have an emotional pull to me. And I think that's the key for me, right? The goal is not to create pretty pages. The goal is to actually work through whatever you need to work through at the time. And then, so this page, no words, I'm telling you, I have a whole flash of memory and sensation that come with this page. And that to me is the power of journaling. You get out, you work out whatever you need to work through. And then at some point in the future, there's no telling what's going to come out to you, but it's emotional. There's an emotional resonance because it's something that was meaningful to you, as opposed to you're trying to make something look pretty for somebody else to like, right? So again, all I can think of, so here I'm playing with red, blues, and yellows, watercolors in this case. The background here is acrylic. It went on ahead of time. I'm almost positive I was listening to a podcast when I'm doing stuff like this, because that's when I tend to do kind of more doodly stuff, is when I'm listening to a book or a podcast. And so, there's no need to make something that looks finished or that others are going to like. I believe in making pages that make you happy and or work stuff out. And when you're done, here's another one of those doodles. I'm watching the Jacksonville Jaguars play New England playoffs. There it is. While I'm doing commercial breaks, I'm just doing some doodling on my pages. All right. Stem stamping at the end. So This is what this journal looked like. It started in April of 2007. And let's see, and it ends on December of 2007. It takes me a while to get through my art journals, primarily because I always have several journals going at once. Let me know if you're a multiple journal user or what I call a non-monogamous journal user. Give me a like down below so I know that I'm not alone here. And I know I'm not, right? Those of us who play multiple journals at the same time. So that's what I have for you today. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments. I hope you're being safe. And until next time, happy creating. Bye.